Hey Yuuka, I have a favor to ask you. Can you scream as loud as possible at a random point during the ASMR? Or at least say Baba Booey if possible with a caveman tone. Also, is your spider doing fine?
I'll be the BGM for today. Okay, don't worry. Okay, let's move over to the chat screen now. Alright. If I'm too quiet, just let me know. I can turn up my gain a little more. Is this better? Can you hear me more clearly? Hi, welcome to stream. Yuuka. Is TTS on? No, we've turned off TTS for this stream. So, you know, for your viewing pleasure. Alright, first of all, before anything else, I want to thank the donos in the beginning of stream. So thank you very much to Master Teddy's for the $5, and thank you X Potato for the $10 as well. Are you ready to read what the Rock is cooking? I guess we should just dive right into it. Is the sound still low? Should I turn it up a little more? Alright, I'll try my best to not destroy any ears today in stream. I'll turn it a bit louder. Is this better? Can you hear me? Can you hear the aggressive buzzing of my PC? Alright. Let's get right into it then. Pa-pa. Ah, thank you Egg Vanilla for the $18.50. 18.5 for 15k subs. Wait a second. Ah yes, we did recently just reach 18.5k on YouTube. Thank you everyone so much for your support. Oh god, it's so strange. You guys can hear me swallowing my saliva. Ah, gross. Why is my mouth so poppy? Alright. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous because this is my first time. Why is it so poppy? I'm dying. This is my first time doing ASMR, so please go easy on me, everyone. Alright. It's okay, the popping up is part of the ASMR thing. Alright, that's good. Before I start, I just want to preface this by saying that Narcissu is actually a visual novel and a doujin. So, if you've played the visual novel, you'll probably already know what's happening in this reading. This is a no-voice reading translated by Randy Au in 2005. It's not lewd. A doujin doesn't necessarily have to be lewd, my friends. You all need to stop being so down bad. Boo, not lewd. Okay. Sorry, my bad. I'll read something disgusting next time. Alright. This is Narcissu by Kataoka Tomo. Also, be careful, there might be some translating errors, alright? Not my fault. Your throat noises are loud. That's because I was born with a weird condition. 1996 said to me, "Certainly, since I was a child, things weren't well. But even so, during grade school, I played normally in the summer sun until I was tanned very dark. In June, soon after I entered high school, the day after we ordered our school uniform swimsuits was the first time I experienced being admitted into the hospital. It was a little before midterms, and the rain that began to fall made the day feel awfully cold. In the middle of the pure white sky of the rainy season, in the beginning, everyone in class came to visit. But when I was released from the hospital, they would come over to play during the weekends. But that was only at the beginning. Fall came, winter left. Hospitalized, released, outpatient care, and then, once again, hospitalization. Classmates who were once called friends, all unawares, became acquaintances, and then strangers. As the seasons turned one by one, it seemed that I was disappearing from their memories. It seems somehow that to people who lived normally, my existence to them made them uneasy. That's why I pretended to have been erased. However, many seasons passed. Looking at the white rain clouds, I lived without the need to exchange words with anyone. My English textbook from my first year junior high midterm remained in the same state. It was there that my time seemed to have stopped. Thank you, Eric Mintaro, for the $100. I'm sorry. I'll probably be reading out the donations at the end where I can scream and freak out as much as I want, if that's okay. Just so we don't disturb. Just so we don't disturb the ASMR. Also, yes, my nephew is here today, so he'll be screaming in the background. I'm very sorry. Alright, let's keep going. From the point of view of the main protagonist, 2004, early summer. This is 8 years after. Summer, flowing sweat. At the DMV license examination room, there was a large lit sign. The lights came on all at once, and the man searched for his own number along with other people. 237. 237. Among the lights, he finally found his own number. Kathunk. He relaxed in the train car. In his left hand was a copy of the traffic regulations book. In his shirt pocket was his new driver's license. With this, I'm also generally exempt, eh? He muttered to himself keenly, though he felt no particular strong emotions. It's not like he really wanted to drive a car, nor did he have any other sort of goal in mind. It's just that his colleagues were all taking training courses, and he had been encouraged to at least get a driver's license. That night, he reported to his parents that he had obtained a license, and they simply replied, "I see." When he tried and asked if he could borrow the car, they replied with a short, "No, you can't." It's not like he had wanted to drive the car. Their responses were as he imagined. They were those kinds of parents. The next day, when he woke up, his chest was in pain and he was sent to the hospital. Normally, he didn't have any relationship with illnesses, and so waiting in the waiting room was extremely boring. Finally, when he thought the examination was over, he was sent to take x-rays and blood tests. He was forced to take them. Again, after a long time of waiting and boredom, without thinking, he finished 3 books of jump manga and was reaching for the 4th. It was then they completed the paperwork for his admittance into the hospital. The driver's license that lay in his chest pocket. The driver's license still lay in his chest pocket. It seemed that the time for his debut was a ways off. 2004, fall. Around the time when the noisy cicadas stopped crying, he was in the hospital, as was usual. It's not like he was in admittance the entire time. He came and went, back and forth. A month ago was his first experience with surgery. After being released, he was originally supposed to be a 5-minute commute to outpatient care. From then on, hospitalization, release, outpatient care, and then rehospitalization. Bit by bit, he returned. He didn't know anything about PET scans and the like, but if he paid attention, he'd notice a few months would go by during his comings and goings. Along with his appetite decreasing, the amount and type of medicine he was required to take increased. Even he could feel that his own strength was decreasing. His legs felt a bit thin, and he was told that it wasn't his imagination. His weight was decreasing. And yet, all he could do was watch himself objectively, as if watching a stranger in a single scene on television. Unexpectedly, the things that were happening to his body didn't communicate to his head. Things that occurred in reality didn't seem to be real. And so, even though it was supposed to be his body, all he could do was watch on with the cold, detached eyes of someone far away. Winter. Winter, roughly when Christmas trees disappeared from the streets, he was allowed to return home because of the new year. In the end, it seemed only temporary, but even so, he was happy. In the sleeting rain, he returned home after a long absence. For some reason, the entire family had been gathered. His parents, who normally did not speak much, spoke often and smiled at him. The sister that he had always quarreled with made him his favorite cream stew and eel stir-fry. He got to sit inside the kotatsu and eat mandarins. It was very kind and impressive. At that point in time, he had a bit of a feeling. That brand new driver's license that remained in his pocket, untouched all this time. He thought that the license may not give birth to any value before expiring. Awkwardly accepting the smiles directed at him, calmly, vaguely, somewhat distantly, as if talking about someone else, he thought that. 2005, January. The new year had come, and again he was admitted to the hospital. For some reason, he was not taken to the usual 4th floor, but instead went to a conference room. And there, with his father and a doctor, he heard many things, was forced to hear them. It seemed to be a notification of something. It was an extremely distant talk, but he understood the meaning. It seemed that he was going to die. "I see," was the only thing he said. He was unable to find any words. From when he entered the room until he left, those were the only words he said. Upon his answer, the doctor's ballpoint pen moved. Most likely, it was the letter for the hospice. To the very end, he remained very businesslike, much like his father. This was such a simple thing. That was his true impression of the event. And from that day, he moved from the 4th floor to the 7th, from a 6-patient room to a single room. The 7th floor was slightly different from the other floors. For one thing, the floors were sparkling, and the ceilings were much higher. The hospital rooms were also extremely beautiful, and the large windows seemed to have been designed to let in lots of light. My bad. However,
Thick off.
immersion ruin.
Why do you bark? Why do you honk? Why are you like this? Stop. Get out of here. Go. Just drive away. Yeah, fuck off. Go. Get out of here. Shoo. I'm sorry. Are you okay? Wait. I'm gonna mute. I need to cough. Jesus, that scared me so much. What was I up to? I forgot. Alright. Okay. Everyone sit back down. Everything's okay. Alright. Sorry.
Back to the reading. However, the windows could only open a tiny bit. Upon examination, the windows would open slightly to smaller than the size of one's head. Also, the color of the wristbands they had to wear was different. Since the time of his first admittance, the vinyl wristbands carried his name and blood type information, and their colors changed from blue to white. High ceilings, white vinyl wristbands, windows that could only open around 15 centimeters. When he was transferred to the 7th floor, the New Year's programs were still being broadcast. His first meeting with that girl was also during the beginning of the year. Prologue over. How long is 15 centimeters? It's, oh no, I don't know. American.
Wait, let me
Let me search it up. You guys are gonna hear me talk for a bit. Type, sorry. In inches, it's around 6 or 5.9. Alright. One banana. Sorry, I had to burp. This is not going to be an ASMR burping stream. Alright. Chapter 1 for 7th floor. 2005. Winter. 7th floor. Down the hall by the nurse's station, there's a conference room-like place. That unpopular place held a number of sofas and pipe chairs and had a large television. On that CRT, some random New Year's program was playing. Watching the boring television, acting equally bored, was some girl. She was petite and wore pink pajamas. On her wrist, she wore the same thing he did, a white wristband. Her hair seemed long enough to reach her waist. "Say, is that interesting?" he said. The man didn't find any particular deep meaning in all of this, but since there was no one around, he tried to speak to her profile. "Not particularly," was all he had replied back to him. She didn't even turn towards him when he spoke to her, as if she had absolutely no interest in him. She just kept watching that boring television. "If it's that boring, you don't have to watch it," he thought to himself as he sat down in one of the pipe chairs, turning to face the television. There was nothing to do, nothing he could do. And he summoned Blue Eye's white dragon. Sorry. My bad. I saw something funny and I had to read it. They continued to sit and watch the television in silence, watching those New Year's shows shown on the screen. They watched pointless comedy acts and talent shows. Occasionally, the high-pitched laughter of the host would ring out in the white room with good exposure to the sun. The sound just dryly echoed. "Say," the girl suddenly spoke to him, still continuing to gaze into the television. "How many times is it for you?" "How many times? I don't understand what you mean." "That you've come to the 7th floor." "I'm sorry, I don't understand your question at all." "I see. You're new here." The girl just decided that on her own, as he sat there, not understanding. "Then, since there isn't anyone else here, it's my duty." Duty. There's that kind of rule. It seemed that there was a rule to tell newcomers to the 7th floor. The man didn't know what it was yet, but the girl seemed to ignore him and continue talking. "Well then, listen carefully." The girl spoke, her words coming by ones and twos. It was a speech that was slightly different from the one given by the doctor. According to the doctor, this place was for awaiting the progress of medical treatment. It was a place to heal the heart, and most likely, in general, that was right. But from the girl's words, that was just the public position. The 7th floor was not for unique medical treatment, but a place to await the exhaustion of life. That's what the girl said, and also what he had thought. "This is my 2nd time," she told him. "2nd time? What does that mean?" "Coming here," she replied. Then she explained to him that the people who come to the 7th floor don't usually die on their first admittance. Even if someone isn't cured, if their physical condition is good enough, they're allowed to go home. But as their condition worsens, they return, and among those comings and goings, they die. The only difference being whether their life runs out at home or on the 7th floor. It always ended in death. There was no avoiding it. Well, I'm only going to say this once, so listen well from here on. As the girl continued to speak, she remained staring at the television. What she spoke was not what time the lights get turned off or anything else that you'd normally tell someone new to a hospital. It was something entirely different. The 3rd time they let you go home prepare yourself. There's rarely a fourth time. You won't be able to return home anymore. If you want to run away, go not to Station A, but to Station B. Don't eat anything. It's the shortest way. It's the least burden upon your family. All the girl spoke about were such striking things. Most likely, those were the words passed down from the people who came here, the people who are heading to death. The duty that you spoke about earlier, this was it. Yes, that's right. Someday, you tell it to someone new, okay? After saying that, she slowly got up. Softly, her hair swayed and brushed the tip of his nose. Well, it's time to have my temperature taken, she said before she turned and walked down the hall. He was left alone in that room, with the laughing voices coming from the television and the white flowers growing by the window. In the end, that girl had not once looked in his direction. A few days passed. Finally, the New Year's program stopped airing, and for middle and high school students, the third term was about to start. Once again, the man and the girl were sitting in the lounge, just blankly staring at the television. "It's boring, isn't it?" he said. "Yes, it is," she replied to him, but she kept looking at the screen while speaking to him. "Say, is this place always like this? I don't understand the meaning of your question." I mean, how there's no one around," he said.
Why are you making noises? Shut up. My throat's making weird noises. I'm not even burping, I can talk while it happens. It's so weird. What the hell? No, shut up. Is your throat okay? Yes, it's okay. Don't worry. Let me just take a drink of water. Okay. Other than nurses, doctors, and helpers, he never saw anyone except each other's attendants. Is it because it's the beginning of the year? Do you want to know the reason for that? She asked. No, I didn't mean that. Then I won't say, she said. They had these kinds of disinterested exchanges often. A small breeze blew in from the window that could only open 15 centimeters. Occasionally, it would sway the girl's long hair in the same way it swayed the flowers decorating the window. These were days of watching boring television, merely passing the time. So that's where the two of you were, said an elderly nurse, rushing up to them. Once in a while, she would visit the nurse's station, and she seemed to be the chief of the 7th floor. "So," said Sumi-san, "you don't have a fever?" "It's alright, I don't have one." Setsumi, apparently, was this girl's name. "You shouldn't be loitering around outside, okay?" Setsumi remained silent. "Okay, everyone gets worried. It doesn't really matter." Before the nurses take her to get a blood test, the man stops her and asks
if he could call her Setsumi. My, what kind of comment is that? The nurse murmured. Really, girls these days, what's there to do with them? Afterwards, the nurse continued to make a bit of small talk. During that time, the girl, the one called Setsumi, pretended not to hear and ignored it, pretended to ignore the slightly noisy nurse, and continued to watch the boring screen. Why are you guys so obsessed with oranges? Orang. There you go. Well, I'll see you later. We have to collect a blood sample, the nurse said, finally, before returning to the nurse's station. Say, he started. No, is it alright if I call you Setsumi? As he asked, he looked at the white vinyl bracelet on the girl's wrist. There, her name and blood type were written. She remained silent. Is something wrong, Setsumi? Why aren't you giving me a suffix? What? Even though you're the younger one? Hey, why am I the younger one? No particular reason, I just thought that. It's not like he was upset at the word younger, but no matter how you looked at it, he thought he was 5 to 6 years older. So, he pulled out the driver's license from his shirt pocket and showed it to her. How about this? Even though I look like this, I'm 20, you know? As I thought, you're younger, she replied with a single glance at the license. I don't get it. It's not something to worry about. I'm only older by a little bit, Setsumi murmured with her usual lack of emotion. On that day, even though she was gazing at the boring television, he thought she was looking at some place far away. One day, after breakfast, the man snuck onto the elevator, making sure the nurses couldn't find him. He went to the first floor, out the door, and began to head to his destination. Not Station A, which was close by, but Station B, far away. It's not that he wanted to escape, or anything. He had heard that no one had died except at the 7th floor, or their own home. He also had heard that Setsumi had gone to Station B a number of times, and so he just went, wanting to see the place for himself. I don't mind you guys memeing in chat, don't worry about it. It's fun to read.
Excuse me, this is a library. Sorry, just gently shuffling my legs. Ow, my wrist, Jesus Christ.
It's not like there are guards around. He walked slowly, taking his time. He thought about how he was a person of the 7th floor and how they were different from other patients. He thought of many what-ifs as he walked along the early morning road. Glancing at the rushing people commuting to work or school, his feet slowly continued walking. After a bit of walking, about 25 minutes worth, he finally reached the bus stop at the station. This place is a lot of people, he said aloud. That was his first impression of Station B. He stood a bit out since he was...
Why, throat? Why? Shut up.
He stood out a bit since he was wearing pajamas, but he thought that if he brought a ticket, he could go anywhere that he wanted. without any trouble at all. He didn't know why he was supposed to go to Station B and not A, but if he really wanted to escape, it made sense. What made him wonder was that girl must have come to this place numerous times. Why was it that she was still in the 7th floor? He thought that while he stood in front of the morning station, gazing at the people rushing by. That night, after the lights have been turned off, back at the 7th floor, the man held onto a book of manga, unable to sleep and hanging about the lounge. Normally, roaming about after lights were turned off earns a severe scolding, but the people of the 7th floor had relative freedom. And there, in the lounge that had turned pitch black, he saw her figure. "Hey, did you see outside today?" he said. "Yes." In the dark room, she answered him, but her face remained facing the window. He began to tell her about what happened today. "That reminds me, today I went to the station." Silence. "I went to that B station, just like you told me to." "I see." Were the same as ever. He had thought that since she must have also had gone before, there'd be some kind of response. He started thinking as to why the girl was still fixed there. Did she never really intend to sneak away from the start? "Soon, I'll be able to go home." The girl opened her mouth suddenly, sudden words that saw through to her heart. Huh? But this is the 3rd time. Fire. Fire. Why is he saying fire?
Why is he saying fire? Is he okay? Oh my god, fire. 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 There's a fire. What? What's up? What? Maybe your house is burning. Oh no. Oh god. Oh god. Don't worry. This is why I've got a cup of water. If I just put it on my head, I'll be immune to fire damage. I'll be okay. Don't worry. Oh no, Yuuka, your house is on fire. Oh no, she's reading too loud. She can't hear us. What the fire? Why? He's just screaming. Oh god. Fleeing, burning up ASMR. Of course. Alright, I'm sorry for breaking the immersion. Let's keep going. But this is the 3rd time, so we might not be able to meet anymore, she continued. Ah, that's right. Most likely, she was saying that her temporary leave has been decided. There were practically none who were able to get temporary leaves more than 3 times. And, unlike the older patients, thinking about the rate of development of their conditions, even fewer of those were of young age. That was the meaning behind why they might not be able to meet again. "Say, which would you choose?" Setsumi asked, as he sat in stunned silence. "Choose where you intend on dying." At the sudden word of dying, his words were blocked for a moment. "Well, I haven't thought about it." "I see. Well, it's your first time," she said in a lonely murmur. Of course, even for him, he wouldn't be here forever.
Just like everyone else, he'll be admitted in and released from the hospital, gradually weakening until someday, in the end, he'd have to choose between the 7th floor or being surrounded by the thin smiles of family. I don't like home, she said, but I also don't like it here. Then,
Shut the fuck up, dummy. Shut up.
then, what will you do? Nothing in particular. Neither one. I'll just go off somewhere while I can still walk by my own power. Somewhere? Wait. The man thought, well, obviously if she wanted to run away, she could. But yet, she was still on the 7th floor. Do you have somewhere else to go? The girl paused. Do you want to hold me back? Or do you want to come with me? Well, I didn't mean that. Then, please don't ask. Setsumi started to gaze out the window. Again, their conversation had been one where she did not once look at him. However, that one time, her usual emotionless expression was instead sad. Having been told that 3 times is the end, and looking at this girl who had already come a 2nd time, he was still unable to absorb reality. But he wondered whether he too would someday make that face. Another rainy day. Occasionally it would change to sleet or snow, and gently continue to fall. In the middle of all that, the man sat in the usual room, watching the television, while the 7th floor was devoid of people. Is it interesting? Came Setsumi's voice. Nope. Boring. After that exchange, she silently sat down in a pipe chair, and they both again passed the time silently watching the boring television. He had nothing to do, nothing he could do, and he was sure the girl was the same. Ah, the girl suddenly said, surprisingly responding to something on the television. Is something the matter? Not really, she said, as she always did, but her reaction was different. There was something she was interested in on the screen. The screen was showing a nature scene. There were beautiful hills covered with trees and flowers. The main focus of the scene were a great many white flowers. The man remembered seeing these flowers. Looking around, they seemed familiar to the white ones that decorated the windows. Are those the same? See, look, they look exactly the same. No, they're not. Really? It's the same type of flower, but more strictly, they're different, Setsumi said, after giving them a single glance before returning to the television. The man couldn't see the difference. Not that it mattered to him, but the normally quiet girl had spoken to him, and so he tried to strike up some conversation. Are you familiar with these things? Not really. Say, these flowers, are they orchids or lilies? She remained silent. Well, they're white. Silence again. Even though he had no interest, he kept speaking, but the girl remained quiet, simply watching the boring television. Eventually, he gave up and returned to the television also. Your English is good, thank you. Harry, I'm sorry you're feeling really sad. I hope you cheer up soon. I know it's not really helpful to say, but just try your best to get some extra sleep. Eat 3 meals a day and drink water, alright? Do things that make you happy. Narcissus. They're Narcissuses, she told him, and for the first time, she turned to face him. Her long, waist-length hair swayed as she pointed to the television, looking at him. He thought he saw the briefest of smiles on her face for the first time. She faced him. Chapter 2. Silver Coop. A few days pass, and winter was coming into full strength. It was the middle of the Yuukan season, and the two of them continued to spend their days watching the boring television. It's boring, isn't it? Yes, it is. They had their exchange that couldn't even be called a conversation. Days where both of them were simply passing the time. Oh yes, when were you? The man asked. It's today. I see, today. It was the day that she was to be released to go home again. We might not be able to meet again, she said. Ah, that's right. It was likely that sometime during her absence, he too would be allowed to go home. The timing of their next meeting would probably be impossible. Have you decided? She asked. You mean where I want to die? No, not yet. I see. She nodded in a slightly lonely fashion, probably because this would be her second time going home. He was still on his first visit here. Speaking of which, did she decide upon her answer yet? Patter, patter, patter. Setsumi, the preparations are done, said some lady that came over. Most likely it was the girl's mother. She even bowed her head slightly to him. Well, it's about time to go. Are you ready? Yes. Once more, the lady gave him a little bow and made ready to leave the area. She stretched her hand out to her daughter, but the girl didn't move to leave. Even when her mother tugged on her hand, for some reason, the girl didn't stand up from the pipe chair. Is something wrong, Setsumi? It hurts a little. What? Where does it hurt? Your chest? Your stomach? Chest. Just wait a bit. I'll go call the doctor. The mother runs off to the nurse's station, the sound of guests' slippers echoing. The only people left in the room are the girl sitting bent in the pipe chair and him. He didn't know her condition, nor its advancement. All he knew was that her name was Setsumi, and her blood type was O, the only things written on her wristband. But, being residents of the 7th floor, at the least, her condition was more serious than his. Say, until the doctor comes, do you want to lie down there? He said, pointing to a couch that furnished a corner of the room. Here, I'll prop up your back. It's nothing. I'm fine. With that single answer, she quickly stood up. Hey, you. Before he could say not to strain herself, she quickly walked down the hall. Nighttime. Holding some books of manga with him, the man loitered in the lounge, since he couldn't sleep. And when the lights were turned off and the room became dark like it always did, he saw Setsumi there. Hey, you're still here? What's wrong? You don't feel well again? Not really, she replied while gazing out the window. It seemed that her temporary release had been stopped after all. He wasn't sure when the next opportunity is, but with this, most likely it would be delayed. Not by a few days, but a few weeks. Say, I'm guessing, but Those saying they were faking illnesses might be strangers still. After all, they originally couldn't be called normal people. Is it because you don't want to leave the hospital? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you won't have another chance after, right? She fell silent, and she thought about the conversation they had before, where she asked him many times where he intended to die. As I thought, you don't have any other place to go. And if so, then what? No, nothing. In that dark room, it was barely 11 p.m. Here was the dividing line between ordinary and extraordinary. Moreover, here, as people of the 7th floor, they both could not choose anything other than the 7th floor or home, looking out the window and at the television at the ordinary world, the world that they could probably never return to. The me whose time has stopped. I lived through a number of seasons, looking at white rain clouds without needing to speak to anyone. In the beginning, I gazed out at children going to school or people walking quickly, and when it became too tiresome, I watched the television. There was nothing else to watch, nothing else to do. Outside, at the clouds, the television screen, and the sun, there was no coldness, no heat, no pain. Before my eyes spread a world of dreams. In my imagination, I wished for calm. I only increased my knowledge greatly. I just gathered and gathered more and more useless and meaningless knowledge. All unawares the things shown on television lost a sense of reality. Next were books, then games, and then family. Finally, even my body. As if watching a stranger, I couldn't recognize the reality of my body. That is why, when I came to the 7th floor, I wasn't surprised. If I close my eyes, the world always disappears. That's why I thought I was fine with it. I made myself think I was fine. And then, before long, I was released a second time. The next time I returned, I might not be able to walk on my own. Even though I knew that, I thought that my unresisting self was wretched. I thought that my destination-less self was ridiculous. Stop time, stop my heart, make a large scar over my chest. Nevertheless, even though I've lived 22 years, I thought it was sad.
Water break.
Can I get an ara? Of course. Ara ara. Genki dashiteo. I'm sad. This story is making me sad.
Okay. Not gonna get snacks, Yuuka. Your stomach is making a lot of noises. Yes, I know. I have snacks. I just don't want to eat because I feel like my stomach could make more noises. You know. I'm dying. Sorry, wait. I'm adjusting my chair. Okay. My chair has adjustable sides. It's cool as hell. Yuuka eats water. Ah, yes. Wait. ASMR. Yuuka eats you. Wait, be careful.
eyes spread out. The man's father surprisingly came for a visit. In the beginning, the father had a pained expression on his face, but he told his son his insurance. At that time, his eyes weren't sad. "I'll speak a bit with the doctor," the father said before running down the hall. Alone in his room, the man looked at the things his father brought him. The weekly magazines, the juice that they always bought for him, and the fruit basket. And just in front of the melons that he disliked were car keys. The keys to his father's silver car. The silver coupe, with the interior that his father was so proud of. The keys to the car that he was always not allowed to drive. And then, in his chest pocket, was his driver's license. The license that lost its debut, and that he had carried with him ever since. The proof of his once ordinary life. Without a word, he picked up the keys. Even then, he had no reason for doing that. He just felt like it, as if watching a scene on the television, and then gathering up a few days' worth of medicine and placing it in the bag from the convenience store. He turned down the hall. He walked by the nurse's station, towards the elevators. The bag in his right hand, the keys in his left, the license in his pocket. In front of the lounge, the next thing he saw was the figure of a girl sitting in a small pipe chair, again, watching the television. "Say, is that interesting? Does it seem that way?" "No, not at all." "So, do you want to go together?" He showed her the keys. "I don't like home either. I don't like the 7th floor," she answered. "Then, shall we go together?" The girl got up, and after placing a few days' worth of medicine in the bag, the two of them left the 7th floor. The two of them entered the elevator in their pajamas, and went from the highest floor down to the first. And on the first floor, they deliberately did not head towards where the admittances were conducted, but instead went towards the true exits. Stepping out into the cold air, they searched for the car in the parking lot while the cold wind blew. When they found it, the man quickly used the key and opened the doors. "Get in," he told her. "Okay." He sat in the driver's seat while she sat in the passenger side. Her small size made it so that if she sat normally, it would be difficult to see outside. Next, the man placed the key in the ignition, started the car. Everything was just like the original driving lessons. Next, he had to disengage the parking brake and open the clutch. With this, they can go anywhere. "Here we go." The girl replied with a small nod. Putting the car in gear, he slowly pulled out, and they slowly drive away. "You're a bit shaky, aren't you?" Setsumi commented. "Yeah, this is my first time in a car after all. And since we're on the subject, this is the first time driving since I got my license." "I see." They drove around the hospital exit and drove onto the large roadway towards a large, lightless intersection. From behind came the sound of a car horn, blaring at them as they pulled suddenly into the lane. The gears ground as the clutch was shifted improperly while the silver coupe ran. The car behind them stopped honking, seeing that it wasn't necessary, and the man drove on without worrying too much about it, all while detached from reality. "Say," he spoke. "What? Are you scared? Is it better if I were?" "No, not really." It was just before noon. The sun was high. Through the windshield, the January winter sky seemed for some reason so blue and clear. It wasn't as if they had a place to go. The place where the unaccustomed clutch shook in the car in the cold weather. The day when the two of them aimed at the national highway in their pajamas. Those winter days. sky had turned orange as the sun began to set. All that time, they had just driven and driven, and when they came to a place that they didn't recognize, the man finally spoke. "We're going to stop for a while." They pulled over to the side of the road in some nameless town, and for the first time started to check what was in the car. They had just up and left without any preparation, and so the man was hoping to find anything that would be of use. Searching around, he found a few hundred yen in change, intended to pay tolls, some books of manga, and a one-use camera. The two of them didn't have any particular destination in mind, but the car didn't even have anything that could help in that. Finally, all that the man carried on him was about 8,000 yen, all the money that he brought with him in the rush to leave. Combined with all the coins he found before, he could barely make 9,000. Of course, he hadn't expected to find much in the car from the start, but with this, they can't even afford decent lodging. Plus, he doubted the girl had any money. "Is there something wrong?" she asked him. "No, nothing." Well, it didn't matter. They had no grand plans from the start. They had just wanted to go somewhere. They didn't want to just sit still. In any case, he started up the car again and began driving. "By the way, are you hungry?" he asked the girl. Come to think, they hadn't eaten anything since the morning. "For now, let's go to the convenience store." "No. Hey, don't be so picky. Compared to the food at the 7th floor, it has to be better." The girl stayed silent. She glanced at her clothes, the pink pajamas that she wore. Ah, that's why. With the pajamas that they were wearing, they'd stand out far too much. In the cars, it was no problem, but in a store. Making a decision, he turned off the main road and headed into town. Near the train station, there must be the place he was looking for. Searching around, he found it, a coin-op laundromat. It was a small place on the first floor of an apartment building. It just might be the perfect place. He stopped the car some short distance from the building. "Just wait a bit here." The girl looked at him with a mysterious expression as he left her in the car and headed towards the laundromat. Inside the rundown place were lots of old washing machines and no one else. One of the washing machines was in use. Quickly checking the machine, he found that out of a 30-minute cycle, there were 5 minutes left. Moving to the entrance, he checked again to make sure no one was around, and once he was sure of that, he returned to the machine, opened the door, and opened the machine. Paying the humidity no heed, he grabbed a pile of half-dry clothes, and while keeping an eye around, he left the shop. "Ah," the girl said as he returned with the clothes. "Okay, we're leaving." Examining the clothes that he took, they were mainly gaudy jumpsuits and sweats. The size was probably a bit big also. They were half-dry, but the car's heating should take care of that. "Later, wear what you want," he told the girl. She didn't say anything, but kept looking at the pile of clothes. "We had no choice, didn't we?" "I know. It's not like he liked doing this sort of thing. It's just with the money that they had, they couldn't afford to buy clothes." They drove into the night until the moon showed its face. The man drove the car to a public park and stopped. Most likely, it was some kind of children's park, and there they started sifting through the clothes that had dried nicely from the car's heating. "As I thought, all men's clothing," he said. There was nothing except jumpsuits and sweats. Most likely, the original owner was about the same age as him, and about the same size as well. He started to change into a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt. "You should change too," he said to the girl. "Everything is too big." "Then, you're going to just stay in pajamas the whole time?" "Okay," she said reluctantly. She grabbed some jeans and clothes and opened the door. "Hey, where are you going?" "To change," she replied, before heading straight into the restroom at the park. She came back holding her pink pajamas, wearing a pair of jeans and a white sweatshirt. That was fast, he commented, but it's good that you managed to wear something. She didn't say anything. As anticipated, the clothes were too big for her, and both the jeans and the sweatshirt were rolled up numerous times to fit her size. The pajamas were better, she said. Don't say that. It's warmer that way. She gave him a slightly dissatisfied look. As I thought, something more feminine might have been better. No, she replied with her usual answer. No matter how much he thought she was dissatisfied with the sweatshirt, soon she returned to her usual emotionless expression. It began to rain, and from inside the car, they watched the rain wash down the windshield and flow into the river. They had stopped in some parking lot, some lonely place in the mountains. After buying some things at a convenience store, they were spending the night there. Between them, their dinner menu was 2 nigiri and a small bogari and half a potato. It's been a while, he said. She replied with a nod, holding a nigiri. It wasn't spectacular fare by any standards, but compared to 7th floor food, this was enough. The girl stretched her hand towards the split potato, when suddenly her hand stopped. What's wrong? Nothing in particular, she replied, turning to the windshield. Outside, a number of white flowers could be seen, flowers soaked in the rain. Those are narcissus. Narcissus. Ah, right. The man remembered that she was interested in those flowers, and so tried again to start up a conversation. Are those different too? Strictly speaking, yes. Ah, how splendidly rare. Not really. They're everywhere. Everywhere. Where? He had just spoken without any particular intent, just something to keep the conversation going, but the girl fell into deep thought and slowly opened her mouth. West. West. Awajima is the name. Wait a minute. Awajima, you mean? He wondered how far away that was. Exactly how far was it compared to how far he planned on going? Most likely, it was another 700 kilometers away, and even if they used the expressways, it would take a while. With the money that they had, he didn't think they could last, and even if they didn't take the expressway, they probably didn't have enough gas. Don't say unreasonable things like that. We can't possibly go that far. Oh, said anything about going? Eh? You asked, so I just answered, she told him, before gazing out the windshield again, at the cold rain on the other side. It's not like he wanted to go there himself either, but neither of them held any other destinations in mind.
Not evil. Sorry. I have to cough. Give me a moment. By the way, 700 kilometers is 435 miles for the funny American people. I'm sorry, my cough was really loud. My bad. Alright. Is there a quiz? No, there's no quiz, don't worry. Everything's gonna be okay. Alright, let's keep reading then. Chapter 3, Map. The me whose time has stopped, just gathering meaningless knowledge, worthless information, always gathering information from the CRT. Before I knew it, reality became faded, dull. But I loved looking at maps. I liked cars and trains, things that carried people places. Spreading out a map on my narrow bed, tracing the numerous main lines, tracing, riding sedans, coupes, convertibles of various models, always running forward along the ever-continuing Route 1. The indigo blue sky and the beautiful seaside road heading towards that place painted in dreams, going around a
a gentle cape under the bright sunlight and looking out over white sand. If I closed my eyes, I could go anywhere, to places with scenery that I had never seen before, while thinking of lands that I could never go to. There was no meaning to it. It was just gathering information. All it invited was vain yearning. Stop smoking. No, it's fine. I just usually don't talk this much. Even on stream, I have a lot of silent moments. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. I think I'm ready to continue. The rain stopped the next day, and the clouds were racing high overhead. The still wet asphalt gave a unique sha sound as they drove. They continued to drive on, as they had been doing, without any destination, just simply driving on. It's not like they were aiming at that Awajima they talked about last night. After all, the problem of gasoline came long before that. The man just drove on straight lines along the road that he didn't know, thinking these thoughts. But where in the world were they? At some point, he wound up thinking about it. After all, he wasn't really familiar with geography, and all the places' names were totally unfamiliar. He intended to just continue going, but without a navigator, he just didn't know what he was doing. So without thinking about it, he was staring at the signs closely as he drove. I don't really know, he'd say. What is it? Oh, nothing. I'm just wondering where this is, he replied. He figured that even if he asked the girl, she wouldn't know. It's Iruma of Saitama-ken. At the next intersection, if you go right, it's Route 16, which exits towards Hachioji. Wait, you know. She stayed silent. Maybe you live here. Not really, nothing like that. The man found it very mysterious that she would know where this place was. It didn't look like she was the type to have been driving around all over. Why are you mad, PC? Stop. Relax. Then perhaps you know how to get from here to Awajima. I don't understand the meaning of your question. Well, no. Then without going onto the expressway and only using smaller roads, we might be able to go there, right? Plus, our money might hold out long enough to pay for gas. You want to go? She asked after a pause. Well, no, that's not what I meant. Then please don't ask, she finally said, before becoming silent once again, gazing out the window. It seemed that she wasn't looking at the scenery flowing before her eyes, but instead someplace far away. The man wondered about the phrase, "Please don't ask," she said just then. What in the world did it mean? Did she mean that if he wanted to go, she would have answered? Without destination, simply driving, without any plans, simply disliking the 7th floor and his cheap home, the man drove. However, at the very least, he might have wanted something to be pointed out to him. Anything at all would do. 2005, January 22nd. The sound of waves. It's cold, isn't it? Yes, it is. They stood on some beach with an unknown name, gazing out at the sea. The man had originally intended to head west, but before he knew it, he was moving towards the south. A strong, cold wind blew across the beach under the dark sky. They both left the car and gazed at the dark sea. The always despondent girl was looking far into the distance, as usual, at the horizon where the pitch-black sea and sky met. And after gazing at the sea for a while, she slowly began to walk towards the waves. "Say, how do you think it'll turn out?" she asked him. "I don't understand the meaning of the question," he replied. "Do you think I could die comfortably if I go like this into the sea?" she said, with her back facing him. as she slowly walked out towards the waves. The third time is the last. There's no fourth. There is a choice between the 7th floor and home. It didn't seem like there was been anyone who avoided it. The man remembered the words that she had once told him, and how this was her second time, and how she had already hated both her home and the 7th floor. She had already told him these things. Already her duty was over. Therefore, that's what he thought she meant. I don't know. I've never drowned before. Then, perhaps, if I went into the sea right now. She turned around and looked at his face. Will you stop me? The moon hung behind her back in the dark sky. The eyes that always looked somewhere far away were looking directly at him. I don't know. Not until that time. You're right, she replied, once again turning her back towards him, once again walking slowly towards the waves. Say, you... What? Do you maybe want me to stop you? At his words, the girl stopped just a few steps before the waves. The strong wind blew the spray from the waves up into a mist that struck her feet. If you want me to stop you, I'll stop you. Not really, it's not that. Then, I don't have to stop you. She also didn't reply to that question, but her feet were planted and didn't move forward anymore. And so, he thought of that as her answer. The next day, the winter sky was so clear and blue as to be sad. The strong north wind blew, making power lines overhead whistle. The metallic paint of the silver coupe reflected the sky as it ran. The man was driving, and as usual, the girl was sitting in the passenger seat next to him. He had no idea where they were, and reality presented them was a problem. The gasoline seemed to be about out. From the start, they didn't have all that much money, but after their purchases at convenience stores, they had about 7,000 yen left. Of course, he didn't know how many liters the car needed, but he thought they had enough for at least one refill. They didn't have a destination in mind, but losing their mode of transportation would mean the end of their ability to travel. I'll go get some gas, he said, turning towards a gas station and pulling up. I see. Welcome, credit or cash, said the attendant. Cash. Will it be regular gasoline or high octane? He blinked. Regular, high octane. He had no idea. He really didn't know anything about that car. He had just gotten his license and never learned these kinds of things. Which will it be? He floundered. And just when he was about to say anything would do, the girl sitting next to him spoke. Regular. Yes, regular. Yes, well, regular. Cash, full tank, be right. Yes, please. Yes, certainly, the attendant replied brilliantly while skillfully operating the pump. From the window that was left open only 10 centimeters came the smell of gasoline. Say, is regular fine for this? He asked the girl, but she didn't answer him. She just pointed at the price listing. Of course, regular was cheaper. That explains it. He didn't really know about these things, but he didn't think it would make much difference in the end. Then he looked at the gasoline meter. 25, 26, 27, 28. The digital counter was racing up. Could the thing be broken? As he watched the numbers, he started becoming a bit nervous. He had randomly said to fill up the tank, but he didn't have much idea in the way of money, including coins, a combined wealth of 7,000 yen, and he had no idea how many liters his car held. Glancing at the prices again, he figured that it should hold up for about 60 liters. 38, 39, 40, 41. The meter continued to race up without slowing, and as he was getting more and more worried, damn, it's still going. It's alright, it'll stop soon. Because this car takes 50 liters, she told him. And just like that, the meter stopped around 40, 47, 48. There was a sound of a receipt being printed, and the attendant came over. Sorry for the wait. It comes to 5,240 yen. The man took out a 5,000 yen bill and a wrinkled 1,000 yen bill and handed them to the attendant. Here's your change of 760 yen and your receipt. Thank you very much, the attendant said in a bright voice before they pulled out of the station back onto the road. Once again, the coupe was running along the road. With this, the urgent fear of the gas tank was gone, and now they only had about 2,000 yen left. He was worried about that point, but then again, he was worried about it before also. Say, he spoke to the girl, I was just thinking, but are you familiar with cars? Not particularly. Not particularly. You just said this car was 50 liters, didn't you? Of course, for all he knew, she had just been guessing, and the fact that it happened to be a popular spec for cars. But then, the girl was knowledgeable about the roads before. Taking a chance, he picked up the vehicle registration of the dashboard. Of course, you know the name of this car, don't you? Is that a question? Well, think of it as a quiz. Integra Type R Coupe. Correct, and the specs. 99 model. 5-speed transmission. Maximum output, 200 horsepower, she replied in a disinterested tone. He didn't think she would really answer. Without thinking, his eyes followed the text on the registration. Total length, 4,380. Total width, 1,695. General displacement, 1,797 cc. Do you want me to go on? No, that's enough. Correct, he replied, returning the registration. She had unbelievably memorized all of the specifications. He didn't think human memory could do that. As to why he thought that way, he simply couldn't even imagine it. But before his very eyes, the girl answered him. And also, before, if he thought about it, she seemed to know so many things about the roads and flowers. Say, how come you know so many things? No particular reason. I'm just older than you is all, she answered before falling silent again. Looking out the window, she gave no indication she would answer any new questions he posed. Older. Even though she didn't look like it, those were the words that she had used before. Her name was Setsumi, her blood type was O, and those were written on her white vinyl wristband. And then, she was older than him. That's all the little he knew of this girl. It was then the day was slowly beginning to darken. The silver coupe continued driving, without destination, simply driving. There wasn't any worry about gasoline now, but their money was rapidly depleting. Only 2,000 yen left. Thinking about their diet of convenience store food, it was probably enough to buy 3 to 4 days' worth. Say, from here, what should we do? He asked. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we don't have much money left. And so, you... The girl remained as she always did. She held the nigiri he had just bought at a convenience store in her hands as they talked. Also, as they continued to drive like this, they were definitely using up gas. For all he knew, it would be better if they just stopped right here. But to stop without doing anything, unable to do anything, was tough. While thinking that, the man continued to drive on. If they continued as they previously had, running along the smaller roads, they had about 3 days' worth of gas. Just like their 2,000 yen could buy them 3 to 4 days' worth of food. Obviously, he could see that they were heading towards poverty. Say, that Awajima place. Do you want to go see it? There was no reply. She just kept looking out the window. I want to see it a bit, he said. Why? Well, he floundered. They hadn't left the 7th floor with any sort of plan, so to him it didn't matter whether they headed east or west. Anything would have done, so long as they had some place to go, he thought. When it became totally dark, the man stopped in the parking lot of some pachinko shop. Of course, it wasn't his intention to raise money at pachinko or slots, but with just 2,000 yen, he knew there was a problem before playing. But he figured it wouldn't be too hard to expect to steal 10 to 20,000 yen. He had just been thinking about it since they passed a pachinko shop long before. With just that much money, they should be fine, and it might even let them go all the way to Awajima. And so, he told his plans to the girl. How about it? You want to try? She had answered, as expected, quickly dismissing the idea. He didn't really hope that she would do anything. It's not like he was asking for help. He explained his plans to her, more like a declaration. Well, wait here a while. Leaving the girl in the car, the man walked towards the pachinko shop. Inside, the shop was busier than he expected. There were many large game machines and change machines. There were quite a number of people, here and there. There were people stacking cash boxes, things that might just be perfect for him. The man moved unerringly towards his target, the slot area. For a while, he assessed the situation from the hallway. From his observations, he selected one table. There was a middle-aged man who looked like a salaryman. At that salaryman's feet were 4 cash boxes, and another 2 were above his head on the machine. On top of that machine, just around the corner from the salaryman, was free. During the whole time, the salaryman didn't look like he was waiting for a friend. The conditions were perfect. In this situation, even if one of the boxes under his feet was stolen, he probably wouldn't notice. In this store, most likely, one box would be worth 20,000 yen. With just that much. The man just hung around, waiting for the salaryman to go to the bathroom. After a bit, around 30 minutes, the salaryman finally got up. The man quickly followed after, and when he confirmed that the salaryman had gone to the toilet, he quickly dashed to the slot machine. Next, while checking the people in the neighboring slots, and for the shop owner, he slowly moved towards the machine, and then, trying not to look suspicious, acting perfectly natural and right, he picked up one of the cash boxes. Gashan! A horrific sound was raised. Slot coins scattered all over the floor, the coins he was supposed to have picked up. Actually, he was sure he picked up the box with his hands. However, the box couldn't withstand the weight and came crashing to the floor. Everyone's eyes immediately turned towards the source of the sound. The man thought he heard the sound of voices, and felt the presence of people running. But those voices were behind him. Already, by that time, he had run within 2 meters of the exit. Slamming the car door shut and panting, he quickly started the engine and slammed on the accelerator. And just when he twisted the wheel to depart quickly, "Gan, gari gari gari." "Yeah," the girl gasped. The man tisked as they were leaving. They had driven up onto the curb or something and rammed into something. Paying it no heed, he drove the silver coupe onto the dark road while he gasped for breath. He was worried about what he had slammed into earlier, but leaving the area came first. Soon, after 10 minutes of driving, when they were totally clear of the pachinko shop, he stopped the car by the roadside and went to inspect the damage. "Is it okay?" the girl asked, seeming just a bit worried. "Yeah, I don't think it's anything serious," he answered while examining. The tail bumper was definitely dented, and the end of the muffler was a bit cracked. The car should be able to run without a problem. Returning to the car, he gave out a sigh of relief. What a waste, he thought, remembering the events of the pachinko shop. He had failed while being so close to his objective. But he thought that the next time he should be able to do it well. It was probably the fact that he hadn't carried heavy things in a while, and so he couldn't carry the cash box away. If he was prepared for it in the beginning, he probably would have managed. "You're misunderstanding something, aren't you?" came the girl's voice. The present you should be different from the you of the past," she continued, as if she could see right through him. "But if it was just that weight, it's better if you don't think of it as the same." Most likely, the girl's words were right. He didn't want to admit it, but he was different from how he used to be. Certainly, with his stamina as reduced as it is now, he didn't think he could succeed. "Then, what should we do?" he asked. There was no reply. She just gazed at the dark night through the window. It probably meant they should just give up.
Hi, welcome to stream, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not reading chat as much because I have to read this story. And at this rate, I don't know if we'll be able to finish it in time. I'm worried, you know? I'm worried. Okay. How is it so far? We've reached the halfway point, by the way.
yourself. Yeah, I'm actually really enjoying the story. How many pages? It's 50 pages. We're on page 25. Chapter 4, I think. It's great. Thank you, thank you. My body keeps making weird noises, and I'm really sorry. Getting used to whispering, yep. It's still kind of hard. Also, I don't know why my throat keeps making weird noises. You hear that? Jesus Christ. Feck off. How do people normally do ASMRs without, like, having their throat go like every few minutes? It's so strange. Oh, I just realized, since I've turned my gain so high, probably everyone can hear my heartbeat now. Do you wanna try it? Wait, okay. Heartbeat time. It's so weird. Being able to hear your own heartbeat is so strange. It's so weird because, like, when I think about different things, my heartbeat kind of slows down and speeds up. It's so strange. Wow. Epic. I feel I can hear the cooler running. No, that's my computer cooler. Can't hear it, Sag. Oh, I'm sorry. Alright, let's carry on now. Chapter 4, Emerald Sea. Stop time, stop my heart. Days of just gathering information. Days of gazing at maps, closing my eyes, visiting unknown towns. One day, on the cover of the monthly magazine that I always bought, my eyes stopped upon a picture decorating the cover. It was a model wearing a fancy swimsuit, posing upon the beach. Behind her smiling form was the Emerald Sea that I had always watched in my dreams. Certainly, we were the same age, with preeminent style, so happy and relaxed. She smiled at me. I don't think I was particularly envious. For one thing, I didn't even have a swimsuit, nor the need to wear one. For me, pajamas were all I needed. Watching the mini-seasons, the white cloudy sky, passing the days without the need to exchange words with people. That day, in the middle of June, the day I was first admitted into the hospital, I remembered the swimsuit I had ordered years ago, the swimsuit that had lost its debut that day. I took it out of the drawer after so many years, the school swimsuit that remained brand new. I took off my usual pajamas and timidly put on that navy blue swimsuit. It was a perfect fit, even though how many years had already passed. It was as if just now I had ordered it. The model from the magazine with the Emerald Sea behind her smiled at me. With that preeminent style, so happy and relaxed, she smiled at me. That was sorrowful. I didn't think I was particularly envious, but in truth, I might have longed for her, because I knew that it was impossible. I might have been an unnecessary yearning, but the large scar on my chest warned me to give up. It admonished me, saying until my death my companion would be the world of my closed eyes. 2005, January 22nd. It was around the time when the sun was slowly staining the western sky orange. What should they do from here? Their money supply was just about gone. Say, you. Surprisingly, the girl spoke while the man was contemplating their situation. Can you go take a bath? Presently, other than long baths, I can. I see. The same as me, then, she responded. What she wanted to ask was probably whether the doctor prohibited him from taking baths. For people with kidney or other digestive treatments, which required various pipes, there were many that were strictly prohibited from bathing. Thinking upon it, the girl probably had a circulatory condition like his. What, you want to take a bath? Is something wrong with that? No, I want to take one too, after all, he said, though they didn't have money to stay at an inn or hotel. Then why don't we look for a bathhouse someplace? Bathhouse? Yeah, we should have enough money for that much. As I thought, I'm fine. What? You're fine with this? Since the day they left the 7th floor, 3 days had already passed. There, they only bathed twice a week, and then had a warm sponge bath twice a day to keep the body dry. Well, even so, because of the season, they weren't sweating, and since they spent most of the time in the car, they didn't have much chance to get dirty. Don't tell me you don't want to because a bathhouse is embarrassing. Not particularly. I didn't mean that. When the sun had totally set and the large moon was showing its face, the men found a school-like place. Here should be just right for their purposes. He stopped the car on the road near the entrance and began to rummage through the lump of clothes in the back seat. There should have been 2 to 3 towels in there. After carelessly tossing aside some clothing, indeed, he found some shabby towels. It had Shiraishi Engineering Shop printed on it, and was probably some cheap thing. Wait here a bit, he said. Taking 2 of the towels, he headed towards the school. Looking around first, he climbed over the closed gates. He found a water faucet, most likely held for watering the flower beds, and walked over. When he twisted the faucet, a strong flow of water gushed out, so cold as to slice through one's body. He soaked the towels he carried and then wrung them out before returning to the car. Sorry for the wait, he said. Here, he handed one of the towels to the girl, and then he removed his top sweatshirt and began to wipe his body. Inside the car, with the air warmed by the heater, the pleasant cool towel felt good. You don't have to hold back. Wipe yourself, he said. It's cold and it feels nice. Okay. At first, she seemed to be hesitant, but with that reply, she raised her hands to the button of her clothes, the baggy button-down shirt and jeans. Then she placed her hand inside her clothes and began wiping. Say, she murmured. Something the matter? Don't look. Sorry, you're right. As the girl spoke quietly, her hand was under her clothes wiping. She wore this slightly troubled, slightly embarrassed expression. The first time he saw her wear any facial expression. Stop! No winky faces in chat. Inside the cramped car, they sat with their backs facing each other. How about it? It feels nice, doesn't it? Yeah. In the pitch blackness, with the little bit of light inside, the glass in front of them would reflect the images of them washing themselves. Beyond his image, the man saw the image of the girl with her back towards him. Pretending not to see, he looked at her image and saw the large scar on her chest. Most likely it was the scar from surgery. He couldn't be sure, but it was a larger scar than his own. Say, what is it? Is it that unusual? Came her words as he watched the reflection from the glass. Look, stop being weird. Go to horny jail. Go to horny jail. Get out of here. Stop. Under the cloudy sky, the silver coupe ran. As always, the car drove without any destination, and thinking about it, 3 days have passed. In that time, nothing special really changed. To be particular about it, though, along the way, they found a free, open-air bath. It wasn't a very popular place, so they managed to at least take a bath. Other than that, they reached the bottom of their money, and once again, the bottom of their gas tank. Are you tired of it? The man asked. Not particularly, she replied, while holding a convenience store nigiri. Compared to the food from the 7th floor, it might be delicious. But even so, they've been eating only these for days, and they were bored of it. But even with this kind of food, with their money, even that would be over a few more trips. Even that would be over in a few more trips. The sound is noisy, the girl complained. What is this all of a sudden? The sound of the car is becoming louder than before. Ah, now that you mention it. It must have been from the time they ran away from the pachinko shop and damaged the muffler. He hadn't been worrying about that, but it was true that the sound had probably been getting louder. Well, he shrugged. It doesn't get in the way of driving, probably. And also, the problem before them was gasoline. The meter was reading empty, and they had been running for 5 minutes like that. With the remaining 900 yen, this time it'll be different from before. Clearly, they don't have enough. Since if they ran out of gas on the road, they couldn't do anything, he made a decision to go to the gas station and search for one with a room. Soon he found one and pulled up to the nearest open pump. I'll get some gas. I see. But don't get out of the car. She didn't answer, but most likely she understood what he meant. The man got out of the car, opened the gas tank, and pumped the gas, imitating the other customers. Nearby was one other customer, and in the back, near the vending machines, he could see someone that looked like a worker in a building. Most likely they were supposed to pay over there. Reading the plate on the wall, it seemed that after filling, you take the receipt over there. If that's the case now, they could run off like this. The man felt as he watched the pump. 23, 24, 25, 26. The meter was counting, and it seemed to go much slower than the first time. He felt irritated, wanting to fill the tank up faster. Finally, after passing 40 liters, the tank was about to be filled. "Welcome," said the employee that was just before in that building, and now was for some reason rushing over. "Is your ashtray, tire pressure okay?" began the employee, apparently running up to provide services. Yes, they're fine. I see, it's cold, so be careful." And it was during that time the pump reported that the tank was full, made a practical sound, and spat out a receipt. "Please pay over there," said the clerk, his hands pausing from washing the windows. The man was silently holding the receipt silently. Very silent, not knowing what to do, and wound up standing stock still. "Is there something the matter, sir?" No, nothing." For a moment, he returned to the interior of the car. What was he supposed to do? That clerk had now started cleaning the rear window. He could just accelerate away, but without question, the license plate number would be noted down. If there was an investigation, they would easily be captured. But now, in this situation, in order to get away. Preparing himself, the man stepped hard onto the clutch and went into neutral, just as he was about to go into second gear. "Here. You can use it." Suddenly, the girl had taken out an envelope, and from inside, she handed him a 10,000 yen bill. You had money?" Just when he was certain she had none. If that were the case, he wouldn't have had to go through all those hardships. "Why didn't you say anything?" he demanded. "Did you ask?" Well, no, because you didn't ask," she replied simply, before once again staring out the window.
What the hell? Bitch. Fuck you.
Once again, the silver coupe ran. For the first time, being the gas tank was filled, and in addition, there was a 5,000 yen bill in change left. But the man was more interested in what happened earlier. "Say, you," he began hesitantly. Here's all of it." Before he could say anything, the girl offered him the entire envelope from before. "I can use this. It doesn't matter. You can." Looking inside the envelope, there were another 4 10,000 yen bills inside. With this, they would be fine for a while. But what he was interested in was something else. Why was it that this girl carried so much money with her? At least from the start, the few thousand yen he carried was something he happened to be carrying at the time. But from the looks of it, he couldn't help but to think the girl had been prepared beforehand. "Say, you," he began. "Before you said that you hated the 7th floor, right? I also hate home," she replied. I'm that way too. Then, well, where did you intend to go?" She stayed silent. This envelope, this money was for that purpose, wasn't it? And the man remembered her words from before. She said that while she was still able to walk by herself, she'd go someplace. She asked him, would he stop her? Would he go with her? "As I thought, you really did have a place you wanted to go." Not really. I can't understand if you say not really. Nowhere, she murmured, so sadly, seemingly so alone. Then, that meant that she gathered this money alone for all this time. Be right back. I'm gonna go yell.
Hello, I'm back.
No, I didn't yell at the baby. I was yelling at my dad. His voice is ridiculously loud.
Yuuka is gone.
Dun 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 dun. Alright. He was a bit concerned about her doing such a vain thing, and yet her lonely profile seemed to affirm the statement. Then, what about you? She asked. Even I have nowhere in particular. Don't copy me, she told him. I'm not copying you. Without a destination, they continued to run. He who had left the 7th floor unexpectedly, and she who had only been vainly preparing to leave without a place to go. And yet, right now, I just want to go see any place, the man said. At the very least for him, he didn't care what it was, so long as someone pointed out the way. Say, how about the Awajima place we talked about earlier? She didn't say anything. The money we have now is enough to go there, he told her. He was positive it was enough to go just about anywhere. To neither the 7th floor nor home, even just to keep on going, but not meaningless wandering. The man wanted to move with purpose. Don't you think you'll want to go see it too? Not particularly, was her only reply. In the same way she always does, just gazing out the window. Unchangingly, her eyes looking as if they were looking at somewhere far away. The man wondered what in the world she could be looking at. What was she thinking? What did she expect coming here? Chapter 5, Route 1. I loved looking at maps. I loved the Route 1 that continued running forever. Unknown places, cars that would take me anywhere. But no matter how much information I gathered, it was just imagination. Reality. My heart both steadily grew more fragile. I had a swimsuit, I had a map, but I had no future. Outside the window, there was a world, but it wasn't a reality that I could touch. If I closed my eyes, I could go to a world of nothingness, but in that world, it wasn't as if my body would disappear. I knew that. I resigned myself to have as my companion for life, and the world of closed eyes, and yet I only kept imagining maybes. I would hope and dream about maybes, but in the end, longing never went beyond longing, along with the bikini, along with the emerald sea. The large scar on my chest told me to give up, but passing my life in a hospital room, living only in the world behind closed eyes, not being able to choose anything by either the 7th floor or home was sorrowful. To be given so little margin to choose between, but even so, I thought that I was even more pitiful for not being able to find that place, even though I've lived 22 years. Just once, let me do what I want. When I remembered that, I felt the time that had supposed to have stopped swayed. That time, the heart that was supposed to have stopped hurt. January 26th, Route 1. The clear winter sky was reflected upon the car's top as it ran. As always, it continued without a destination. There didn't seem to be any looming problems of gasoline or shopping. Before long, they were coming close to a large intersection. The man didn't receive the girl's approval, but he turned west because he felt like it. It was just that, since he had no idea of the geography, and using the expressways would be hard on their money supply. While he was thinking that, the large intersection came closer. Without thinking about it, he was going to head straight through. Over there. Left turn. Turn to the right. Turn to the left, sorry. I said the wrong. Oops, sorry. I'm really bad at directions. Turn to the left, the girl said, her finger suddenly pointing. While thinking what this was all about, he followed her finger and entered the left lane, and into the large road. What's the matter? For this is Route 1. For the moment, go straight. For now, he asked. Her sudden finger pointing surprised him. Up until now, she had seemed to know about anything they came across, but this was the first time she spontaneously pointed something out to him. Does this mean you want to go? She said nothing. I mean to that place, Awajima. Is something wrong with that? No, that's not what I meant. They had been going without purpose. He had been wandering, wanting some purpose, and that hard-to-understand girl who was always gazing far away. The words that came from the girl's mouth were unexpected. It doesn't mean I'm hoping for anything. It's not like I wanted a swimsuit. What are you saying? It's nothing. 1st of January 26th, Route 22. Under the clear winter sky, the silver coupe reflected the sunlight and went on. It had passed the paths full of steep climbs and sudden curves, and now was running on an extremely easy-to-travel road. Say, where do we go after this? Aichiken. And soon after, we'll enter the city of Nagoya. The man was thinking about their remaining money and how they were running on the lower road instead of the expressways. Alone, it would have been impossible for him, but he followed the girl's directions. The pointing girl who knew more than a navigator. He didn't know the reason, but he thought it was likely to be the right route. At the next intersection, enter Route 22. Gotcha, he replied, following her directions and turning the wheel, changing directions. From their windows flowed the scenery, of which they had never seen before, a city that stretched far to the north. And before they noticed, the scenery around them slowly changed to more calmer things. Say, do you want to go visit there? The man asked, pointing at some family restaurant near the national highway. Look, haven't we been eating only convenience store food? Of course, they hadn't been eating only convenience store food because they liked it. They had to think about their money, and for that reason kept their expenses in check. But now, since they had a bit of extra money, he made a proposal. Once in a while, going to a restaurant's good, isn't it? I'm fine with the convenience store, the girl said, only slightly lowering her head. It seemed to him that she was looking at her clothes. She was still wearing those baggy clothes. I understand. Then why don't we go there first? There. Look, that shop over there, the jeans shop. He pointed at the shop easily seen from the road. It looked like a high-volume, wholesale shop dealing in jeans and casual wear. I'm sure in that kind of shop the things won't be that expensive. She said nothing. Okay then, we're going in. We're going in, okay? There was no reply, but there was also no refusal. Maybe with her, if she doesn't object, then he could think of it as agreement. He entered the shop. Inside, the girl went around to many corners of the large 2 floors of the shop, looking very curious. She was silent as usual, and perhaps hadn't changed from her usual appearance. But nevertheless, it was slightly different from the lifeless dull expression that she had watching the television. Over and over, she'd pick something up, look at the price, and then seem to enter deep into thought. Then, while trying on clothes, she would run up to him. How is it? How is it, you say? It suits you fine. It's not strange. Yeah, probably. They had similar exchanges over and over, as the girl kept trying on clothes and returning to show him. Never did she smile or show an emotion, but he thought he sensed that she was having fun. How about it? Have you decided? Yeah, I'll take these, she replied, showing him the cute shirt and long skirt that she had tried on last. The clothes that she chose were certainly in the vicinity of junior high or high school clothing, but she seemed to wear them happily. Certainly, she had said that she was older than him, but combining that with her appearance, that no matter how one looked, she was younger than him, and instead, it suited her so well it was charming. But isn't it better to give up on that skirt? Well, no, it's not that it doesn't suit you. I didn't mean that. She said, "Nothing. Look, it's cold, isn't it, to be wearing an outfit like that? That's not particularly a problem. I'll endure it." Just when she answered, the man could see her white face become just a bit red. Even though she was normally one who would never show a facial expression, could it be that she was embarrassed? It was the first time he saw her show any expressions.
Okay, that's a bold-faced lie. You've seen her be sad. Feck off.
They continued driving, under the winter sky so high above. The silver coupe continued to run with a noisy exhaust. Next, entered Route 21. Gotcha! As usual, the girl was the navigator. By the time he noticed, they were in Gifugen. Usually, when she was not needed, the girl would be staring out the window, but now, again and again, she was happily looking at herself in the side mirror. It was as if she were trying to steal his eyes away by peering into the mirror. "What is it?" she asked him. "Nothing, it just seems like you really like those clothes." "It's not anything like that," she replied, stopping her use of the mirror. But then, after a while, when he wasn't looking, she began looking again. In the end, he decided that she does have a cute side. Even with this little thing to him, she was ordinary. And only ordinary and cute. It was when the sun had totally set at some roadside when they were once again eating the convenience store dinner. "Say, what do you think has happened?" the man murmured, looking at the hospital nameplate on his wrist. Even now, his wrist was still bound by the white vinyl bracelet that held his name and his blood type. "You think there's a big uproar?" "Probably." "Yeah. Parents, friends, moreover the hospital doctors. The thought of them worrying about him, even if they were only worried on the surface, pained his heart a little bit." "Sorry, Dad, everyone. I went off and did something so selfish," he thought. "Say," the girl spoke. "Something the matter? The first time that you heard you were going to die, did you cry?" the girl asked suddenly. For just a moment, he was surprised, and then he thought about the heaviness of the question. "If I'm not mistaken, I don't think I cried." "Then, did you say, 'Why only me?' and curse fate?" "I don't remember that very well." At the start, he couldn't recognize what had happened in reality. He thought of it as something that couldn't be considered real. However, he might have, just a little bit. He had went with his friends who went to the same driving school together, and they bought a new car. There were those who complained about how troublesome the 36 payment loan would be. There were those people who decided that what work they were going to do. There were those who had to repeat a year of school. There were those who had children. There were those who were just dumped by their girlfriends again. But he was denied a future. That's why, speaking truthfully, he thought he must have felt, "Why only me?" Even hearing that it was just fate, in spite of that, he thought he must have felt that he couldn't give up. "And you? How was it?" "Me?" the girl asked. "Yeah, were you sad and crying? Did you curse fate?" "I was fine with it." "Why?" "Because from the start, I didn't wish for anything," she said. "Because I had given up." "I see. If one gave up from the start, there would be nothing to be despondent about. Looking back, there wouldn't be anything enjoyable, but there wouldn't be anything painful either." However, the man felt that way of thinking was just too sorrowful. Or was it that in the girl's position, there wasn't anything else that could have been done? A movie that I once saw the girl said, "Wolves only live for 3 years. "What, wolves?" the man boggled at her sudden story. "But donkeys can live for 9 years. "What's this about? Wolves can live 3 years, donkeys 9. "Donkeys, because they are useful, live long lives," she said. "It seems that that's why." The girl spun out her words while looking at the window with a lonely expression. This must have been, to this girl, the excuse used to accept herself, the excuse used so that she would give up. The winter sky was darkened while they were driving straight along Route 21. and in that darkened sky danced flakes of white. It looked like snowfall was going to gradually get worse. Is something the matter? The girl asked. Yeah, the snow is coming, the man replied. Looking to the side of the road, he noticed that snow was appearing on the ground. He didn't know when they had entered a snowy area, but everywhere he looked was dyed white. Things must be a bit bad, he thought, looking before as best as he could tell. Why, they weren't studless tires. If they kept going and they entered an even more snowy area, it might get dangerous. Say, does this area get heavy snowfall? Well, if it snows much harder than this, things would be difficult. Even if the road surface didn't have snow yet, it wasn't impossible for the road to be frozen over. And now that he thought about it, he hadn't learned anything about driving beyond what was in the textbook. It might be that he needed chains. How about you? Do you know? Coming up is Sekigahara. I asked you that before. What I want to know is whether it's a place that snows heavily. That, I don't know. The girl answered him with a mysteriously lonely expression. From that expression, the man remembered just a little about his malaise. To know this much about the roads and before, even though she knew so much about the car, comparing this to those, he thought she knew enough. All right, at any rate, I'll just drive carefully. A beach. When they got out of the car, they gazed at a lake. The strong wind stirred up here, and there the white snow that dyed the surface of the frozen lake. And in all that, they headed towards a beach that looked like it was an ocean beach. The girl slowly began to walk, a scene that had occurred before. Say, what do you think? She asked. That if you kept going, would you die comfortably? I have a feeling that it would be more comfortable than the sea. To me, I don't understand the basis for that answer, because seawater is salty, and your body would float, wouldn't it? Well, that's faulty reasoning. In the middle of the snow, blown by the cold north wind, he argued with his companion, unable to tell whether she was serious or joking, and then the feet that had paused briefly once again moved towards the waves. Still, are you not going to stop me? She asked. Because you don't intend on dying today, right? That might be so. Until that place, until Awajima, how much farther is it? The man wondered. It's not as if he wanted to go there, nor did he have the prejudice against it. But even though they had been wandering without a destination, they had one now. Even if he didn't stop her, that girl whose feet had paused a few steps before the waves, he was sure that's what she was thinking.
So good ASMR, I'm dying. My throat keeps eating garbage and making me cough. I'm sorry, everyone. My spine. Welcome back.
January 27th, Route 8 to Route 1, set an interchange. From there, go back to Route 1. Gotcha. As they went from Route 8 once again to Route 1, the girl acted as navigator, and now they were headed towards Kusatsu. Say, are we okay with money now? She asked. Yeah, there's still at least 30,000 yen left, he replied. They had bought clothes before, but other than that, they were living as usual on convenience store food. Is something the matter? Then, you want to go on the expressway? She asked. The expressway? We can't go using only the lower roads. Well, it's true that we can go just about all the way, she said. But in the end, we'd have to use a toll road. I see, it's Awajima after all. He wasn't sure about the details, but to get to Awajima, he's sure they had to use some kind of straight crossing bridge or some other kind of bridge. Just gonna let you guys know, Awajima is an island. I think. Then, from Kusatsu, go to the bypass. Gotcha. Under the girl's direction, they went from the Seta interchange onto the Meishin Expressway. Compared to the more common roads that he was driving on all the time, it was apparent that this road required some adjusting to. There weren't any traffic signals, and the roadway was nicely cleared of obstructions. For the first time, driving on the expressways, he thought that he could easily drive on it. It was just that, entering into the right lane of the expressway, the cars coming from behind at such a rate was scary. In the beginning, he didn't know what passing and right winkers were. But with practice, he came to think of driving on the high-speed roads as fun. That car is amazing, he said, referring to the car that came up from behind them at a staggering speed and came face to face with their casually running car. Even the girl sitting in the passenger seat had a slightly different expression. Normally, she would be gazing out the window, looking far away, but today she was curiously looking at the cars all around them. Now that he thought about it, he remembered that she knew a lot about cars. He pointed at the car that easily passed them. Hey, what car was that just now? She stayed quiet. Come on, think of it as a quiz. Toyota Celica, overview. And the one passing now, Citroën Kusara. You know them well, don't you? He said. To be honest, he had no idea whether she was right or wrong. But he thought that the girl who had never opened her mouth carelessly seemed to be enjoying answering these. That's why he continued on without resting. This blue one is an Yunosu. The red one is an Alfa Romeo. She answered the pair that had passed them at the same time. But you don't know about those, right? He said, pointing at the one that was different from all the cars before, a truck. He wanted to see a slightly troubled expression from the girl who didn't really show facial expressions. As I thought, you don't know about trucks. Nissan Atlas 10. Hey, you're amazing, he said. Even though he had intended to pick on her, he never thought that she would know even trucks. If you know that much, it's on a level you can boast about, isn't it? Is that so? Yeah, I think you can puff your chest out, he said. She fell silent at his words and seemed a little embarrassed. Say, how about when we go over there? You want to try driving? She said, but I don't have a license. It'll be fine. I'm sure driving on the beach or something will be fun. He was sure that if they went as far as Awajima, there would be plenty of places where no one was around. And plus, the car was a manual transmission, so once she got used to it, he'd think it'd be interesting. If anything, I'll teach you. She remained quiet. Even if I say that, I'm just a total beginner, though.
Hydration break. I'm gonna have a coughing session. Be right back. Okay. Surprise, it's me, I'm back. Surprise. What? Okay. I chugged some chug. I took a potion. I'm healed. I'm safe. I recharged my shield pots. Don't worry. Alright. Chapter 6. Echo. The sun was still high up, but it was becoming a bit darker. The silver coupe continued to run along the expressway. Soon, at Katsuragawa parking area, they moved slower at a pace that was like a short rest. Say, do you want to take a break at the next one? Yeah, the girl replied haltingly. Is something wrong? It looks like I'm a bit tired. I see, he said, and for all he knew, it wasn't an impossible thing. He was thankful it was just that much. After all, they were originally even sicker than the normal sick person. Then I'll go buy something for you. Well, I'll go then, he said, leaving the car. He quickly went to a nearby shop and bought the usual things that he always bought at a convenience store. Here, Pokari, nigiri, and a potato. Yes, she responded, but she only took the things and didn't move to eat them, even though usually she'd go for the potato first. Are you okay? Silence. Is it that your health is getting worse? It's just that I ran out of medicine. I see. Running out of medicine, it was something scary.
Well, ever since they left the hospital, it was something they could easily predict. Of course, he didn't purposely forget about it, but up until now he hadn't thought about it, and before he didn't even consciously try to think about it. Since when did you last run out of medicine? Last night. Then it's almost been an entire day. For him, he had to be told that his limit was 2 days without taking medicine. Most likely in her case it was a shorter time. Now that he thought about it, it had already been 8 days since they left the hospital. The medicine that they had brought with them sooner or later would turn out like this. What should he do now? Say, the girl spoke. I hate the 7th floor. Yeah, I know. And you also hate home, right? The car began running again. The man took the next exit and left the expressway. It's not like exiting did anything, but in a place like that, he couldn't do anything. From the dreary exit, he drove towards the town areas, and instead of searching for a small town doctor, he searched for a large hospital. Most likely, where there was a large hospital, there would be pharmacies nearby. But there were people from the 7th floor. The vinyl wristbands on their wrists were a distinctive white, and moreover, there were people who had left the 7th floor. Thinking about these things, he searched around the area, grasping the wheel. Certainly, a pharmacy near a large hospital would have the general things they need. Found it. On some large street, standing on the corner, was some large hospital, and just nearby were 2 to 3 awnings of pharmacies. Making a decision without hesitation, he found an empty spot and immediately stopped the car. Hey, lend me one of the bags of medicine. Ah, yes. With a mysterious expression, the girl handed over the bag of medicine. Taking the bag that was for holding medicine inside hospitals, he looked inside and took out the medicine explanations sheet. With this, he'd probably be okay. Okay, I'll be back soon, he said. Leaving the girl in the car and running to the pharmacy nearby, he passed through a slow and randomly opening automatic door into the store. He headed straight to the counter. Welcome, said a worker, a middle-aged sort of man who wore white clothing. He really did look like a pharmacist. I need this medicine, please, he said, handing over the sheet. Please wait a moment, the man said, taking the paper and heading to the back of the shop. Most likely, unlike normal medicines, the man had to get the medicine from a hospital. He remembered that the sort of thing happening while he was released from the hospital before and went to get medicine. Since this place was clearly near a large hospital, he thought most kinds of medicines would be gathered here. Sorry for the wait, it comes out to be this much, the older man said when he returned after a while. In his hands was a clear bag of capsule-like medicine, and there were 2 bundles of them. With this much, it would probably be alright. From the looks of it, there was about a week's worth. Just when the man went to take his wallet out. Right, can I have your prescription? Prescription? I'm talking about the prescription for the medicine. This here is for clinical use. The man fell silent. You received one from your doctor, didn't you? Well, this was unexpected. If he thought about it rationally, this wasn't medicine readily available on the market. One couldn't just normally buy this. Is something wrong? The pharmacist asked. No, the man's words froze. Gradually, the white-shirted man began to look at him suspiciously. The pharmacist noticed the white band around the man's wrist, saw the man's name, his blood type, and the name of the hospital. The pharmacist blurted. The man reflexively grabbed the bundle of medicine upon the glass counter. Hey, stop right there, the pharmacist shouted. The man heard the shout from behind him, but he was already running. He was 5 meters away from the exit. His legs were not holding out, they were becoming unsteady. But even then, he ran in a daze, and just as he reached that slow and randomly opening automatic door, Gashan, ow, damn it. Spontaneously, his consciousness went white for a moment, having run headfirst into the automatic door with such force that the glass seemed broken. He shook his spinning head and opened the automatic door that wouldn't open with his hand. And then he started running from the store. He hadn't been separated from the bag of medicine. Unexpectedly, he was out of breath, his jaw moving up and down. The car was only a few tens of meters away, but it felt farther. It didn't seem like there was anyone chasing after, but he didn't have the luxury of turning around to check. If he was caught, what would happen to her? Alone in the car, she'd probably sit there waiting for his return. For some reason, while he was thinking that, he ran in earnest while staggering out of breath. thinking this was all he had. It was sad, even if he was to say so himself. Collapsing into the car seat, the man caught his breath. He was more self-conscious about how much his strength has declined than that day at the pachinko shop. And when he checked the vanity mirror, as he thought he had been cut by glass and a tiny bit of blood was flowing from his forehead. If it were just this much, it'd probably stop. As he drove, he lightly pressed against it with a pocket tissue. "Are you alright?" "I'm fine, but it's bleeding." "Don't worry about it. It's nothing." The girl was looking at him with a worried face. He stretched out his hand, saying that he didn't need her to worry, and handed her the bag of medicine that he had been gripping. "Here, take your medicine." Yes. With this, they were probably fine. 1 week's worth should be enough, probably. But he worried about that when it was gone. It was good that today had been an accidental success, but it was clear his strength was weakening day by day. Originally, they were without purpose or destination, without desires. There was no fear of loss. But now, things were a little different. With the birth of purpose also came the birth of the fear of loss. January 29th, Fukita Junction, Koge Junction, someplace name. It was a very sunny day, and the characteristic high transparent sky spread above them. Once again, they were on the expressway, and now they left for the Fukita Junction and were running on the Chugoku automobile road. Say, what's next? From the Koge Junction. Gotcha, the Sanyo automobile road then. The silver coupe ran according to the girl's directions. Now that they had come this far, on the road signs once in a while they'd see the words Awajima on them. From the day they left the 7th floor, the trip meter had gone up over 900 kilometers. He hadn't thought that they could have gone so far, but now they were only a short distance from their destination. Before long, a large bridge appeared before them. Oh, that's a really long word. Give me a moment. That's the Akashika Ikkyo bridge, right? It's an amazing... I mispronounced the English bit. I'm an idiot. It's an amazing bridge, isn't it? Both of them spontaneously expressed their admiration. It was as if they were running on the ocean and could go anywhere. And then, after they drove for a while, they came across a few people who had stopped their cars midway. Most likely, they were tourists who were getting out of their cars to take some commemorative pictures. The man imitated those people and pulled the car over to the side and stopped. "Stopping is prohibited here," the girl told him. "Well, a little bit should be fine," he said. After all, there were a number of cars doing the same thing all around. "Say, let's go outside and have a look." She stayed quiet. "I'm sure the view would be amazing." "Okay," she replied. She still sounded a bit reluctant, but she got out of the car to join him. A strong wind blew across the bridge. "It's a bit colder than I thought." Normally, they didn't get out of the car, so they felt it was excessively cold, and in contrast to them, nearby a couple was taking what was probably a commemorative picture, their happy voices coming over to them. Looking around more carefully, there were families and tourist groups doing the same thing. A commemorative photo, huh? Certainly, this place required one. Speaking of which, the man said aloud, "Is something wrong?" Wait a moment. Okay. He was sure there had been a camera. He remembered at the beginning, when they first checked the contents of the car, they had found a cheap one-use camera. At that time, at a quick glance, he thought he saw that there were still a few shots left on it. Finding the camera, he checked the film. Thank goodness, there's still 2 shots left. "Sorry for the wait. Here, I'll take a picture of you." A picture, since we took the trouble to get here." "No. Now, don't say that. Strike up a good pose for me," he told her while pointing the camera at her. "Come now, try putting on a happy face." However, maybe she was embarrassed, but when the girl finally turned to face him, she faced him with a pouting face. But perhaps for this girl, this might just be the best smile that she could make. While he was thinking that and was about to take a picture, "Excuse me, but could you take a picture of us?" A random couple came up to him with a camera in one hand. Sure, okay, ready?" "Yes, please," the couple said with happy smiles, their shoulders intertwined in an embrace. The man framed the two in the viewfinder and clicked the shutter. Thank you very much, said the boyfriend. In return, we'll take a picture of the two of you, said the girlfriend. No, where? I just press here on the camera, right? The boyfriend asked. Faster than the man could reply, he had accepted his camera, or more like the boyfriend had ripped it out from his hands. Come on, you two, get closer, the boyfriend said. At those words, the man got closer to the girl's body. The ever-emotionless-looking girl also moved apologetically closer. Could you please pose a bit more? The boyfriend asked. The boyfriend just kept noisily adding more requests, and looking closer, both him and the girlfriend were giving them exasperated looks. Thinking there was no helping it, he slowly placed his hands around the girl's shoulders from behind. It was the first time he had touched her body. The feeling of the childish clothes that she had bought just a few days ago, along with her waist-length hair, spread from his hands. Since he was facing the camera, he couldn't see her expression, but just maybe she was wearing that embarrassed, pouting face that she only showed him once in a while. Okay, ready? Click. Making sure that they had taken the picture properly, the couple then returned to their car. The man and the girl also returned to theirs. Girlfriend, hey, the man mused when they got in the car. It looks like we've been misunderstood, haven't we? The girl remained silent. Perhaps we look like that, he joked a little. For some reason, it felt fun, and unconsciously, he continued to speak in that tone. Say, what do you think, Satsumi? What? Despite being the younger one, she replied. As she spoke, she was facing the window as she always was, and her expression was the same as always, and she didn't look at him. But those weren't the eyes that were staring far off someplace. He thought it was because she was embarrassed, so she had turned her face away.
Truck. Wait, we gotta wait for the truck to leave. Sorry. Trash truck gang. The truck adds to it. What page are we on? We're on page 43. I think we're almost there. Yep, we're almost at the end. You could took it and said, he's like, don't worry, as long as the truck doesn't crash into my window and kill me, I think I'll be staying as a koala girl for a while. Okay. How are you able to make truck sounds? I'm sorry. It's a natural talent, you know. It was programmed into my DNA. I'm just kidding. It's a truck outside. It's a truck outside. The book is so immersive we can hear the truck. What was it again? Like a Nissan. Was it a Nissan? Like a something 10. January 29th. If you looked up, the sun was high overhead, and the clear sky that was the mark of winter stretched all around. A little after the bridge, they had come to the Sumoto interchange, and once again, he got off onto the normal roads. We finally arrived, haven't we? He said. Since the day they had left the 7th floor, the car's meter showed they had come over 900 kilometers. From a casual beginning, they had really struggled to arrive here. Well, from here, where should we go? To the south. South, gotcha. He returned according to her directions. Truthfully speaking, now that they were here, even he knew where they were supposed to go. Before him, there were many sightseeing billboards, but she was the navigator. He thought he would be wrong if he didn't do this. For some reason, he wanted to do it this way. Chapter 7. Narcissus. Hey, that's the title of the book. At the time when the sky was slowly being dyed orange, on a sandy beach with no one around, a strong wind shook a pine grove. Driving the car into that beach, the man turned over to the driver's seat to the girl. Okay, can you reach the clutch with your feet? It's fine, good. Then shift the gear from neutral to second. I know. Yes, then do as you please. I know. The girl, with her short build, reached her foot out as far as she could, while she gripped at the wheel with a serious expression. That's good. The man spoke, leaning over from the passenger seat. After that, slowly let go of the clutch.
she replied with a clearly nervous appearance. Clack! As she had expected, there was a great knocking sound. Wah! The girl shouted in surprise. Look, if you don't release the clutch more quietly, she replied. It was easy to reply that way, but no one could get skillful that quickly. The girl was trying her best, even going so far as to chew on her bottom lip in frustration. Concentration. That too, I guess. XD. I read it wrong. Since she was a girl that normally wouldn't show any emotion, when he looked at her, he couldn't help but to find it charming. Hey, it's like you're extremely drunk. I know. The loud silver coupe with the muffler that was slightly cracked on the deserted beach, it reverberated almost like a howl. When dusk was slowly turning into night, the constant sea breeze changed into a land breeze, and before they knew it, the large moon was showing its face in the sky. For the most part, it looks like you've gotten used to it. Yeah, she replied, while shifting the gear up to third. She also completely gotten used to the clutch and was now driving around the small beach freely. Say, with this, he said, can't you get your license without even studying? Is that so? Well, I'm not all that credible. I'm just someone who got a license. After all, by now there was no meaning for either of them to get a license. Both of them knew that. They had a map, they had medicine, the muffler was a bit cracked and noisy, but they even had a silver coupe. But they had no time, no future. It was because they knew that he thought it was unnecessarily trying. Well then, instead, I'll give you mine. As the man spoke, he took his license out from his pocket. It was the license that originally was supposed to have lost its debut. It was the proof of what was to him the ordinary world that he had already lost. Here, in place of your graduation certificate. Even if I take it, it doesn't look like I have to use it. I have time to use it, you know. Well, don't hold back. I'm the same way after all. The 7th floor that no one had been able to avoid. Those high ceilings, the windows that couldn't open more than 15 centimeters. The white vinyl wristbands were 3 times as the last. She was on her 2nd. He was on his 1st. Well, here, congratulations on your graduation. Yes, thank you, she said with a little bow. Thank you, truck. I love you. Bye. Get out of here, Stinky. Oh my god, it's right outside. I can see it. Leave. Get out. I'm just gonna wait until it leaves. Stinky, stinky truck. Stinky, stinky truck. What color is the truck? I'm not telling you. You're going to triangulate it to my location. Ah yes, the truck is a brilliant purple. Thank you, she said with a little bow, accepting his license. Now, this girl was also generally exempt. Not just coupes, but sedans, even convertibles. She should be able to drive whatever kind of car she wanted now, and certainly she would be able to go any place that she wanted. From there, they had continued on as usual. They had arrived at the place that was their destination, a place where they could see Narcissus flowers. It seemed that the area was supposed to be some kind of sightseeing spot, but whether it was because it was on the outskirts or because it was night, no one could be seen. In the totally dark, silent of the night, the two of them waited for the sunrise in the car. Say, you're not gonna turn on the light? The girl asked. Yeah, because the battery seems close to dead. That's true. In the totally dark car with the engine off, the dim light from the dashboard lit their profiles. In that cramped car with almost no sound, no light, they didn't exchange many words and waited for the dawn. From the lump of laundry scattered in the back seat, they grabbed a number of thick jeans, sweatshirts, and towels and wrapped them around their bodies in place of blankets. It's cold, isn't it? Then you can come closer if you want. Come now, don't hold back, come over here. He told the girl whose body was shaking from the cold, pointing to his lap. Alright. I'm sure it'd be warmer this way. I'm not particularly. I'm fine, she said, her body still shivering. Even inside the car, their breath misted, and it was obvious that she was just putting on a brave face. Or is it because you're cold you want me to come here? She asked him. Well, that's fine too. Then fine, she replied, slowly moving over towards him, hesitatingly climbing into his lap. Well, it's a bit warmer, isn't it? Yeah. The windshield had been totally frosted over from the cold outside, and between that whiteness and darkness of light, nothing could be seen. But before long, dawn. Surely at the time, they would probably be faced with a blanket of white flowers. Gradually, the night gave way to dawn. The sun slowly repainted the sky from deep purple to a light white, and the place that had been nothing but black appeared white and yellow. Without thinking, the two of them got out the car to gaze at the scene. Amazing. Before their eyes spread countless narcissuses. The sun on the morning dew leapt up, even further enhancing the lively prominence of those flowers. It was as if the flowers formed a carpet that continued into the ocean. As the two exchanged words, their breath steamed a white just like the flowers. They had come to the place since that day when the boring television showed the flowers. Even though they had no purpose, they had been able to come here. It would be nice if these are the same, right? He asked. Strictly speaking, these are the same, she replied. I see. That's good, isn't it? The man didn't know whether these were different from the other ones. That day, the ones shown on the television, the image that had no unguarded beauty. If he compared the flowers before his eyes to those, the size and the way they bloomed before his eyes were only loosely connected, but nevertheless, they grew here. It's beautiful, the girl said. Yes, it is. Vague, tedious, commonplace, and yet calm no matter who opposed it. Merciless reality, in a world that overflowed with things that could not be seen, in a world of things where even if you stretched out your hands you couldn't touch. Right now, certainly, there was something before their eyes that could be. Fragments of those somethings that could not be seen were scattered about. Awajima, January 31st. Rain continued to fall and continued to spill out from the pure white sky of January. It had been 2 days since that time, but as always, they were in that place. They couldn't go. Cough. Hey, are you alright? I'm fine. The girl's health had turned for the worst. She lay in the seat as if stretching her body, almost as unmoving as the car that stopped there. She had been taking the medicine, but it didn't really help as her steady decline in health didn't change. But then, they were people of the 7th floor. From the start, this wasn't surprising for a girl who was already on her second visit. Say, do you want to go back? He asked. Yeah, just a little bit. To the 7th floor or home. Oh no, the baby is crying. No, baby. Oh no. Okay. I think it's okay. The baby is alright, don't worry. Might just be cranky from nap. Might just be cranky. Don't worry. Everything's gonna be okay. Time to eat the baby. I'm not eating the baby. I can't eat this baby. This baby is inedible. Well, he didn't know. All that he knew was, sooner or later, it would turn out like this. Of course, he wasn't in much better shape, but it was painful to be able to do nothing but be nearby and watch. February the 2nd, Awajima. Rain that didn't seem to stop continued to fall from the dark night sky. Through the windows of the stopped car, vaguely shining white flowers could be seen through the raindrops. Say, these flowers, he said, pointing to the flowers beyond the windshield. These were narcissuses, weren't they? These daffodils. It's from the word narcissus. Narcissus. The man remembered hearing about that word, though it was an unfamiliar word to him. You mean the Narcissus? You mean the Narcissus from Narcissist? Originally it was a myth, so there are different tellings of it. And then, with an admiring look on her face, she slowly explained it to him. Narcissus, who was loved by many. The fairy Echo was one of the people who loved him. But Echo couldn't say anything but the same words as her partner. Nothing but the same words. Yes, and so, unless she got Narcissus to say the words "I love you" from his own mouth first, Echo couldn't express her own feelings to Narcissus. The girl continued to speak with a lonely and sad voice. The man thought that her eyes had also seemed to look at some place far away, like she used to do. But that was absolutely impossible. No matter how much she dreamed, yearned, Echo's wish would never be granted. In the end, she cursed Narcissus. Is that the famous thing about falling in love with the image of oneself reflected in a pool? And Narcissus, who continued to gaze at his own reflection at some time, had changed into the form of a beautiful flower. And that is the source of this flower, Narcissus's name. After the story came to an end, the girl lightly adjusted her breathing. While the man who had been listening also felt desolate, the Echo who held a yearning that could never be reached. He thought it seemed just like them in this moment. And then, what happened to Echo? She's nowhere. She disappeared at the time when the curse was placed. Disappeared. Then, that didn't have any meaning, did it? Even though she had gone so far as to place a curse, she accomplished nothing. In the end, all of it made Narcissus unhappy as well. Is something wrong? The girl asked him. No, but you're different, aren't you? Look, before, you asked me, didn't you? Did you curse the fate that you could do nothing about? Because I'd given up. The me whose time had stopped. I passed many seasons, many raining skies, without the need to speak, to exchange words with anyone. From when was it that I was alone, I wonder? Sorry, my brain lagged. Even if I closed my eyes, the world would not disappear. Even if I stopped my ears, the sound of the rain won't end. I knew that. Neither the bikini, the emerald sea, nor the happily smiling graphic on the cover. I didn't think I was particularly envious. When the world of my closed eyes, even without a map or car, I could go anywhere. Even if the large scar on my chest didn't admonish me. Even if this reality wasn't Narcissus, while I was Echo. I will never yearn, never curse, even though that was supposed to have been decided. My heart now was yearning. The time that was supposed to have stopped was moving, even though, if they did that by now, before long it would end. Wounds, the deeper they are, it seems they require a more proportional amount of time to heal. If so, then if one had taken a long time, slowly letting go, is it too late for them to recover? Then, what would become of me, someone who had lived 22 years? Cough, cough. Hey, are you alright? Before dawn, the man stretched his hand out towards the passenger seat, stroking the girl's back. Since then, another 2 days had passed. The medicine whose effect had been weakening, even that had run out. But the man thought it was better than nothing. In the end, he reached out to her car keys, planning on heading for a pharmacy, and when he was about to start the engine, "It's okay," the girl's weak voice stopped him. "But at this rate, at any rate, it doesn't work anymore." That might be true, but he thought the girl was right, most likely, to the same medicine that would most likely not have an effect. But even so, it was hard for him to sit there and do nothing. Then let's go to another place. Another place? Yeah, some place that's not as lonely as this, he said. What do you say? Let's decide on our next destination. Silence. Come now, any place would do. Be navigator again. He spoke in a voice that sounded even to him so bright as to be strange. Facing that profile that was looking far away, hungrily, happily, talking alone. Sorry, I read the chat and the novel at the same time. Happily continuing to speak. He knew that doing this was useless. He knew that it was just as well as he knew that 2 days since the medicine had run out was becoming 3. Say, Say something. There's some place, isn't there? Not really. I know you love cars, don't you? Don't you want to go on the expressway again? Not really. Then, well, let's buy some new clothes. You want some too, don't you? Not really. Not really, you. With those last words, the girl returned to looking out the window. Not at the Narcissus spread out before her eyes, but like before, someplace far away. That partly pouting, partly embarrassed face that she sometimes showed him. She didn't direct that face towards him anymore. Why is it like that? He said. Again and again, always just not really. Isn't it okay to just be a bit positive? Without thinking, the man's voice rose. For some reason he was sad. Even though he was supposed to have no feelings for the real, his heart ached. The interior of the car returned to silence. The flowers of January outside the window, the suisun, the narcissuses. In the middle of the darkness before dawn, they flickered a faint white. That girl who stayed looking at something much, much farther away than those flowers. Only the faint sound of waves ruled this place. There's no way that I can be positive, is there? The girl opened her mouth suddenly in the dark car. To yearn, to be eager, to work hard. If it would be rewarded someday, then that would be fine. But what do you do when it doesn't come true? At that time, to say it wasn't possible with a smile. I'm not that strong, but that girl that was always looking far away was now looking at him directly from the passenger seat. What I can only do is to give up from the start, to stay, wishing for anything, to stay, to say, of course it was impossible, to look at myself with nothing but stone-cold eyes. There was nothing else I could do. You. For the first time, the girl cried, even though she was the one who almost never showed any facial expressions. Her small shoulders shook, and her tears flowed. To say that time, if I had tried hard, if only I could do nothing but take away what was to me my last excuses, but because I knew from the start it was impossible. It isn't that much mine. The night sky beyond the windshield, the sky before the dawn, showed even the face of the moon. Only the sounds of the occasional waves and the girl's weeping voice could be heard. For that girl, she might see herself as the same as Echo, able to only return the same words, saying nothing from herself, wishing for nothing, seeing nothing, to be able to do nothing but give up. To that girl, to deny both the 7th floor and home, it might just be her first and her last act of rebellion. Chapter 8, Shiraishi Engineering Shop. The clear sky of January, the cold wind that pierced the skin. Once in a while, the strong wind would shake a pine grove, and the roar of the sea would quietly reverberate. Say, we haven't anything except this, you know, the man said, handing over the towel that had Shiraishi Engineering Shop printed on it. It was the one they had used to wipe their bodies before. Come now, don't make such a strange face. Okay, the girl replied, taking the towel with an unsatisfied expression. When she suddenly said she wanted a swimsuit, she was troubled. At the time, such a place, and on top of that, she said she wanted a bikini. Not knowing what to do, he went to the car hoping to find something there, and in the pile of laundry was that white towel. After a bit of waiting, the girl appeared before him, wearing the skirt that she liked so much and the towel from before wrapped around her chest. How is it? Well, even if you ask that, it's not strange. Well, probably. It's perfect, alright? It's absolutely not strange at all. Okay, she said, and she started slowly walking towards the edge of the waves. The gathering and retreating waves, the long hair that was swayed by the cold sea breeze, and from the sky, as if preparing for one final attack. Snow fell intermittently, and in the middle of all that, the girl who was holding the shoes she had taken off in both hands was, happily, almost skipping in her bare feet, defiantly walking against the beach. Say, she asked, do I seem like it? So maybe. In the cold deep of winter, their breath was steaming white, and the man took out the camera that was in the car, the cheap one-use camera that only had one more shot in it. Well, I'll take pictures for you. Because it definitely seemed more like it. He told her, setting up the camera where she could see. She couldn't say anything. Come now, don't hold back, okay? The beach. The girl seen through the viewfinder. Whether it was from nervousness or from embarrassment, she was making a face more complicated than usual. In that case, will you strike more of a pose for me? But, no buts. Look, there isn't a single graphic idol in the world that stands stock still like that. Okay, she was a bit awkward. Even then, she did it with all her might. Looking embarrassed, she placed her hands on her hip while her other hand was thrown out wide, the hand that was stretched towards the clear winter sky. It was as if it were to seize something, as if it would seize something. It was stretched straight towards the sky. The emerald green sea was to her back. Then, one last thing. Smile. And smile for me, said to me. What is that? You're the younger one. Click. Saying that for the first time, she smiled for him. A girl wearing a skirt, dressed in a bikini, smiled for the last shot of the one-use camera. Smiled with the emerald green sea to her back. She directed a smiling face, like that of a graphic idol, to him. Alright, next will you give me a pose with more movement? The girl pranced along the beach, looking so happy, so enjoyably. Even though the camera had already run out of film, he continued to take shots at her figure. Say, you're getting caught up in all this, aren't you? It's not that at all. While they spoke brightly, the show that seemed to have been gathering for a final assault was falling with the snow was falling with increasing strength, and in the middle of that, the girl was directing her happy face towards the viewfinder of the camera that ran out of film. Even while her small body was blown by the wind, she directed a smile he could remember towards him. The sound of waves. Well then, it's already that time. The girl replied, at the same time starting to walk towards the sea like she had done before. Speaking of which, the license. That's alright. Take it as commemoration. Okay. She nodded while placing it in her pocket. It was the license that he had once handed over to her. The one that was originally supposed to have lost its debut. And then, the girl also took that white vinyl wristband off her wrist and offered it to him. You're giving it to me? Yeah, I'm giving it to you. I see. Well then, I'll take it in commemoration then. He took the wristband in the same way, placing it in his own pocket. And then, once again, the girl started walking towards the sea, and to that retreating figure, he spoke one last time. Say, can I ask you one more thing? Right now, do you want me to pull you back? Or do you want me to give your back a push? While the waves gathering struck her legs, the girl stopped in place, but stayed with her back facing he who threw out all the questions. The strong wind turned the crest of the waves into spray and coldly struck at the girl. Soon she turned around to face him. Which is it, I wonder? She said to him, laughing lightly and smiling at him, just for one last time. I don't really know. While being struck by the cold sea spray, even while tears were welling up, she directed a smiling face towards him. Those feet had before stopped upon the beach, but now they didn't stop. That's why the men thought that was the answer. Well then, goodbye. And that ended our journey of 960 kilometers. To me, it was 15 days of time. To her, it was the end of a journey of 22 years. The girl that had by her own will avoided both the 7th floor and home. One of estimated 35,000 suicide victims of 2005. Blood type O, name Setsumi, age 22, female. The final identification bracelet was white. That was the all of the girl. But I knew, in reality, she liked bikinis, was more knowledgeable about roads than a navigator, loved cars, she even had a license. She always wore no facial expression, and she rarely turned to face people. But once in a while, she'd make this partly embarrassed, partly pouting face for me. The emerald sea to her back, as if prancing, looking so happy. She smiled for me like some graphic idol, and yet, in this cheap one-use camera, there remained only one shot of that girl's smile. But then, even if it was just that one picture, it is the proof of us that we could leave behind. January 2005. with Satsumi. Those shining days. Those winter days.
I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm hurty. I'm hurting. We're all sad now. Wah. Pain Pickle. Man, I can't believe you guys stuck it through to the end. Thank you so much for letting me read to you. Oh, that's okay. Well, we can all be sad boys together. It's your fault I'm sad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wait, let's see if my background music will play now. It's not working still. So weird. So weird. It doesn't work. My audio's broken. Oh god. Oh god. Oh no. Oh well. I guess I'll just have to die. Okay, everyone, group hug. Group hug. Everything's okay. Someone put on the sad lo-fi music. I'm so sad. Okay, well, let me read out the donations. Sorry I couldn't read them out while we were doing the thing. Alright. So thank you, Master Teddies, for the $5 in the beginning, and Exitato for the $10 at the beginning. I think I already read you guys' stuff out. Okay, so thank you, Egg Vanilla, for the $18.50, 18.5 for 15k subs. Wait a second. Yeah, we're 18.5k subs now. Amazing. Gosh, it's so strange that we're growing so fast. Scary. Ooh. Thank you, Key B. Oh boy, I wonder who that is for the $5. Congrats on 18.5k. Here's the 20. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Aaron Taro, very much for the $100. Whoa. Oh, it's 18.6 now. What? How do you guys? Wow. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Actually. Okay. Thank you so much to Aaron Taro for the $100. Thank you. And thank you, Darkside, for the $5. Is this ASMR? Yes. I'm sorry. I should have answered that earlier. My bad. And thank you, Dill, for the $4.99. Koala Tingles TM. Congrats on 15k. Thank you. Thank you so much for your congrats and your donations. Thank you. And thank you, Insult, for the $10.01. I'm telling BPE, you're going to die. Sorry for missing this as a stream, but I gotta get that bread for you. Oh, you don't have to. Make sure to save up for yourself too. Weren't you getting a car? Save up for it. Bum. Okay. And thank you, Greg Sanders, for the $5. This was fantastically dark. I kind of loved it. I'm just kind of sad now. I just want to take a nap. Man, I'll miss you guys. Like through the weekend, cause I don't usually check my socials through the weekend because weekend is die. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll catch you guys some other stream. Okay. For now, I think we're just gonna end the stream. Okay. Bye, everyone. Bye. Oh, don't forget to check out my socials in the description. Bye, guys. Catch you guys later.